happening, beautiful people of Gary, Indiana? My name is Jeremiah King, founder of Black Building Leaders Advancing Community Knowledge, and this is our second installment of We Engage campaign, where we're seeking to increase the voter turnout by at least 10% by targeting those millennial voters and those voters from the ages of 18 to about 36. So today, we have Mr. Richard Ligon, who is a candidate for Lake County Sheriff. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, sir. How are you?
I'm surviving, brother. Can't complain.
Don't complain. It's great.
They don't care anyway, I heard. So.
Oh, they care a little.
So we can start out by talking just about how you got into politics, if you will, I guess. Or was it a certain event that happened? Was it something you saw as a kid? Was it something you saw when you got older? Or?
Well, when you're young, there are certain role models, and anyone that wears a uniform becomes a role model, and it's determined whether it's going to be a good one or a bad one. And my cousin was a police officer, James Ligon, and I would always see him in his uniform and his hat to the side, and it was very impressive. Also, there were other police officers that if they caught you skipping school, they were going to bring you back to school. And with that, if they mentioned, and I won't mention their names, but it was two names that they mentioned, and if you were skipping or thinking about skipping, you take off running away in the other direction. But you look at that, and then you, a lot of times, even when you're a junior or senior, you don't know what you're going to do. And you prepare yourself by going to college or going to a trade school or the military. And my choice was just to, my father gave me a choice. You either going to the military or college, and you getting out of here. And he meant it, so I ended up playing football, going to Kentucky State University.
Kentucky State.
Yeah, played football and had a good life there.
I say Kentucky State like that because I'm a graduate of Central State.
Central State?
Yeah, that's where I went.
Wilberforce, Ohio, Central State.
Yeah, that was our rival.
Our rival,
yeah,
that's
so,
right.
yeah.
But we used to beat them, most of the time. But that was good.
that was long ago. I'm not sure what it looks like now, but continue. I'm sorry, continue.
So after being at Kentucky State, I remember specifically at halftime of one of our football games, they had a youth football league, and at halftime it was about a half an hour. It was a team from Philadelphia and somewhere else, and I saw these little tiny kids playing football. And no sooner than I saw that, I actually said, we're doing that here in Gary. So we actually started a program in Gary. It was initially called the Gary Greens, and then it turned into the Gary Steelers, and they're still in existence now. I'm still on the board. I don't want to coach. It was 50-some years of coaching. But the young people were really impressive. Most of them went off to college, doctor's degrees. Some of them played pro football, and that just showed you that youth programs are great. I went to the military for a short period of time and joined the Army, and then I joined the Army National Guard and spent 36 good years there. And a lot of the focus was youth. It was actually young people, and that's where it is now. We have to focus on our young people to turn it around. That's the crime, the killings, the disrespect. We really have to work on that. And a lot of people say, how are you going to do that? And initially, I worked as a federal agent for 22 years. I worked the violent crimes in Chicago. I started off in Detroit, and we were working gangs, and then went to Indianapolis and transferred to Chicago. And everywhere you go, it was about, what are you going to do for these young people? How are you going to change their mind? And finally was able to get a promotion back, and we created a team in Gary, for the Northern District of Indiana. And it was actually called, it was a violent crimes team, but we basically worked a lot of the postal crimes, the shootings, the whatever. So had that gain for law enforcement. But before that, I was a juvenile probation officer. And I remember the two police officers, and that's what I would do. They'd see me flying down the alley, chasing them in my Corvette, and I'd put them in the back seat and take them to school. And there were good, solid deans of students and principals that would take them and do what he had to do to make them productive citizens. And so you see all of these things, and you wonder, what can you do? I know when I retired, I said, you know, I want to be the sheriff of Lake County, and because that gives you the strength and the power to do things that you wouldn't otherwise have an opportunity to do. Mm-hmm. And I've tried several times. This time, I have a few other things under my belt. You know, I was police chief for a period of time, and I was able, that short period of time, the Lord blessed me to understand what police officers really go through. Mm-hmm. And the 3 or 4 jobs they may have to work, the 2 jobs they may have to work, the stress level. And when I became the chief, that was one of my goals, is to really turn the morale around of the police department. And I think I was able to get it on the right track. And a lot of the policemen responded, and they were really appreciative. But we looked at it and we said, we have to get a wellness program for our police, because they need it bad. So the Lord really blessed me with that period of time. And although it was COVID and everything else, you know, I was able to get a real good understanding of what police, the responsibility is. Now, I knew about investigations because that's what I did. I did investigations as a Fed. But patrolling the streets and working shift work, you know, it was different. Mm-hmm. So I had a real good chance to really meet some outstanding officers, really work for. As the chief, I actually worked for them. Mm-hmm. And it was my job to get them vehicles and equipment and crime scene tape, little things. So that I really enjoyed, that knowledge. And then after I left the police department, I just sit around just to relax. But that's not me. I have to do something. Mm-hmm. And I was called to help with the issues in the school system, the Gary Community School System. So I actually enjoy that, because we're working with young people, and I've learned to take any kind of name they want to call me, you know. Mm-hmm. But most of all, just setting up programs to protect our young people, because the majority of them want to learn. The majority of them are there to learn, but others aren't. So, you know, we try to pick those out and work with the young people, start mentoring, and really get solid programs into the school.
For sure. So it sounds like everything that you've done thus far has been, of course, predicated around the youth, centered around the youth.
Yes.
So with that being said, even when you were younger, you talked about how they were role models, right?
Right.
So now I think things have changed a lot, to the point to where they don't want to be a policeman at all.
Right.
And they don't even know the struggles that you learned about as chief.
Right.
They just don't want to be a policeman because that's the snitch. That's the idea of being a policeman is not top of the.
It's not, and it's very difficult when you have police officers doing what they're doing now. Mm-hmm. And that's not all, man. You have such a small percentage of what they consider bad police, and you have so many now that will tell on others, and they're sincere about doing their job, and they work hard. I don't know of any police officer in this area that works 8 hours and call it a day. Mm-hmm. You know, they're mostly working 2 and 3 jobs. So, you know, I look at it from the standpoint of them. It's coming back, and I think we can do that.
So how do you feel about? Because when I think police, and I teach, so when I think police, and I'm thinking about it from the younger kids standpoint, I'm thinking about what I see on the news. I'm thinking about what the conversations me and my parents have to have related to how to conduct myself around the police. So I know you spoke a lot about programs. What are we doing to change that narrative? And is it like you said, it's a smaller amount, but it's our reality in most cases. So how do we put that in perspective?
And for probably over 35 years, I've been a member of this organization called NOBLE. It's the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. But it's not just blacks, it's all races. It started with black police chiefs, and they started different programs. Well, they started a program years ago called the Law and You, and it's an interactive program that allows the police to go in and do this presentation to young men. That's what it started with. Then even the policemen that were doing this said, man, I learned a lot from this. So the police they were actually getting the training also. So now the program changed. Noble changed it because on every police action shooting, nobles there because they're in that community. You know, so Gary was no different. We had a Northern Indiana chapter of Noble. But Noble certifies people to train this program. It's called the Law in Your Community now. And I do it now. I'm trying to do it at every PTO meeting for the schools. I do it for churches. And once you get through doing this program, it's an interactive, about an hour program, 45 minutes to an hour. And it really, it teaches, in other words, you switch in places, you're role playing. And instead of me being the police, I become the bad guy. So I call that young person, I call him names and refuse to do what he or she says. So that actually, it's such an interactive, it sticks with these young people. And I think if we really can get that, and I would say as sheriff, we're going to probably certify over 50% of the police officers just to do that program, where they can go into a church with their uniform on with 2 or 3 officers, and they're going to be working with young people, whether it's young men and their families. So that in itself, I know from experience that will change that relationship in the community that we live in, and it will show young people how to respect people, and it'll show the police how to respect the young person. A simple question is, why did you stop me? Well, you can tell them. It doesn't require you to tell them until after you get all of their information, but talk to them, tell them. That first 30 seconds of that encounter determines how that relationship's going to go. So if you have a policeman that the morale is high, he's happy, he has a family, those are things that really create that relationship between the community. I tried to, and I was gone by the time I wanted to do this, but there are so many police officers that save people's lives. Where's that picture on the police wall where this police officer saved this young man's life, or saved him from jumping, or talked him out of a situation with his arms around him, or shaking hands with a kid? Or like now, it's a lot of things done that people don't know about, and one of them is like Christmas, the Christmas program. These police officers, and I know Gary and some of the reserves in Gary, they go out, buy gifts, feed the kids, and really, it's a relationship with the kids. So to me, that's going to be the most positive thing that can happen, is just building that relationship.
For sure. I think there were some times where, with Gary specifically, I thought that they had an opportunity to be innovative in how they address like issues related to policing and being engaged in the community and things like that. So what are some of the innovative ideas that you have, if you're elected as sheriff, to kind of help change the narrative that people have about police, and especially in Gary? That's my main priority.
In Gary, a lot of parents don't really know what we have in Gary. Back when I was a battalion commander in the military, I was able to bring a program to this area. It was called the counter-drug program. And and everything was provided. We taught kids how to play chess. We took them fishing. We took them to parks. So it was a strong mentoring program. And it didn't cost the city anything because they were military people that they put on orders. They actually paid. These programs were very effective. The Department of Defense spends a lot of money on youth programs, and people don't understand. But yes, they want successful young men and women, because later on they may decide to be in the military because you're that role model. So that's my goal, is to bring the counter-drug program back. With the counter-drug program, we also had a program called Operation Crackdown, where they actually tore down houses that were involved in illegal activities. At one time, it was ran by the city, or they coordinated with the city. But now their new program is they coordinate with the police department. And if there's a drug house or something need to be torn down, they have these people on orders, like maybe 8 months out of the year, to do that. They also invest a lot of money with this 5th grade program called Starbase. Every state has at least 2 Starbase programs. In Gary, I was able to get another one here. So we have 4 Starbase programs. One is in South Bend, one is in Indianapolis, and one is in Fort Wayne. I was able to persuade, and we were able to get one in Gary at the Armory, and it's very interactive. It's a 30-hour program that the schools bring their students in, the fifth graders, and they actually do this 30 hours, and then they have a graduation. But everything's hands-on. They spend a lot of money with the training, so that's been helpful. Plus, they have a program called the Junior ROTC program, and they spend a lot of money on that. They cost share the teachers. They actually bring in military people to train the kids on posting colors, and they used to have the drill team competition, which was the largest sporting event in the city. You know, so those are things that we have to look at bringing back because they're going to assist the police with things. Not only that, you know, probably doing the raids or doing the protesting. They were peaceful protesting. Uh, People didn't see the military, but they were on standby. No guns, just the baton and the screen. And we didn't want to be seen. We didn't want to intimidate anyone. It's a peaceful protest. And me as the chief, I want to march with them. I want to be right in the middle of them. Or me as the sheriff, I want to be right in the middle of them because they're peaceful. So let's keep it peaceful. Now, if it turns violent and we think somebody's going to hurt, that's our job, is to serve and protect. That's our job. And as a sheriff, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna serve the public. I'm gonna be walking neighborhoods. I know if I do that, I'm gonna be rewarded because people will bake your apple pies and bake your cakes and cookies. All you're doing is building that relationship. You have to build that relationship, but it's good to build that relationship when the police department's morale is high.
Okay. So, defund the police. That phrase means what to you?
That means, to me, we don't want to do that, period.
Okay.
Because it would be like the Wild West if you have no one patrolling the streets. Now, when you say defund, the money can go in different directions. You have to have good training. But it starts at the bottom. You have to hire good police officers. Everybody can't be a police officer because once you go to training and you get a badge and a gun, you automatically think differently. You think differently and you feel like, sometimes you feel like you're better than others. With that badge and gun, you feel like you can whoop everybody. And I remember specifically when I was a Fed and I got through with my training and I'm flying on the plane and the first thing they do is put me in first class. I got a gun, they put me in first class. I started acting different until a week or two later, I realized, hey, you have to maintain that attitude that you had. You're going to serve, you're going to protect. And all through my career, no one was disrespecting. I can say that. I mean, even if they were cursing, they were still, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. That's just the way we did that. But you have to first select the right people to be police officers. Once you select the right people, you select the right programs. Okay, so now you have the right program, you build morale, you build relationship. You can go in some communities and they won't dare even think about disrespecting the police because the police respect them, you know. But now, I mean, a badge and a gun gives some people the right to hit on somebody or do something. Don't have that right. And I remember them telling me as a Fed, you get paid to take mess, you know. And sometimes that's the way you have to feel. And yeah, the police are going to have to win. But when you talk about defunding them, you have no one to call when you need help. And now with the new laws that they're trying to pass where you don't need a permit to carry a weapon. Now, I'm not saying that each police department don't need specialists, police officers that, and I would say like your police hostage crisis negotiators. They should be trained in how to handle mental issues as well as a lot of the police because a lot of the younger people, or regardless of young or the age, people have mental challenges. And now you can blame it on COVID, you can blame it on no job, you can blame it on a lot of things, but you cannot defund the police department because that will be a horrible experience. What happens when your house is broken into? Now, don't defund, but if there are situations and programs that you need to do, invest some money into those programs.
So reallocation of
Reallocation of funds, yes.
Yeah, I think every police officer should be trained in like that mental health
Right,
area.
right, right.
Because being a teacher, I think understanding those kids like IEPs and
Right,
different
right,
504 plans and
right,
things like that, you understand how to best teach that child. So not only should the police know that community, but they should know of these different symptoms for different,
right,
or you know what I'm
right,
saying, different symptoms for different
right.
sicknesses or illnesses or whatever the case.
Right, and I'm truly, I looked at that because I'm in the schools, and IEP, we have a lack of documentation. So a lot of kids just continue to act up and curse teachers, fight teachers, and nothing's done,
Mm-hmm.
and no one wants to teach. And these teachers, yeah, I respect to the utmost for what they have to do.
Man.
It's not easy. Now, what I want to do, and it would be my leadership team that would help me decide this, but I actually want to hire, or not hire, but select reserve police officers.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, with the reserve police officers, they'll get a 40-hour basic training. They'll get the school resource officer training. They'll get how to handle young people. In other words, they're going to be well trained with a lot of knowledge and mental health issues too,
Mm-hmm.
and make them a valuable asset to the schools. They actually will have uniforms. They will have reserve, but they will be in county uniform, county police uniform. Assign one car to a school where they'll have a car, not to drive out, put sirens on, but actually patrol around the school,
Mm-hmm.
and just their presence, and probably try to have two assigned to each school. And with that, the school would have to help pay for it, if not pay for it, because a lot of the reserve officers need a job. So this would be their job. And I'm speaking of paying them a decent salary, $35 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, they're going to be well trained, so they're not going to have to do anything but reap the benefits. So that's a strong plan that I want to do almost instantly. I want to, and people may get upset, but we're going to have specific people that we're going to select for these reserve, to give them that reserve commission. But they're going to have to go through the training, and the training will be not only physically, but it'll be mentally, because our young people need to see them in uniform as a role model. The people that are thinking about coming in causing problems need to see that there's a police officer there with access to the county and the local police, and that means that the county and the city going to be working in unison. They're going to be, and that's everyone. We're talking about initially selecting probably 4 districts,
Mm-hmm.
and if you look at it, we would weigh where it's needed the most, and we're looking at in the northern part and like Lake Central and different areas, they really need this. So we would start at a program where there's a lot of problems, and we would really specifically train them, and then basically monitor them, but turn them over to the school security. But they're going to have certain responsibilities and job descriptions.
For sure. So you said that you mentioned that you ran for sheriff multiple times, right?
Right,
So,
right.
man, if I'm not mistaken, the last one was really close. The last.
One of them was very close, lost by a little over 1,000 votes.
Okay.
Right.
So what's different from when you initially decided to do it? Because I know you said you did it because you had always wanted to.
Right.
So what's pushing you to do it now? Is
Well,
it?
I am a spiritual person. I believe strongly in God. I live by faith, and I look at it and I say, when the Holy Spirit speaks to you, you really need to listen. And sometimes you don't listen, and what's meant for you, it's there for you. And the times that I was running, maybe I wasn't prepared then, because I didn't know what a patrolman or the lowest police officer on the totem, I didn't know how they felt and what they did,
Mm-hmm.
because I never had that experience. But that experience working with Gary and actually seeing what the patrolmen go through and what the actually patrolling the street, I learned a lot, and I made a specific point to learn that. And then working in the schools, although I worked in the school with the junior ROTC as the director of Army, all the programs, I did not work with them in the security aspect. So if someone was fighting or causing a problem with ROTC, if it wasn't the cadets,
Mm-hmm.
I kind of left it alone. But here, you have to get engaged. You have to talk to young people. So the period that I've been working with the schools have given me that young people attitude, experience, and the mentoring that's needed. So it has opened my eyes to what's really needed. And those are things that I look at as, serving and protecting. So how can I serve the community better? I can serve them better now than I could the last time because I have better knowledge of that. So, the knowledge and the experience that I've received since the last election has really opened my eyes to say that I'm definitely a leader. Okay, just the military alone has shown that. Being the team leader for the Northern District of Indiana as a Fed, all of these experiences of leadership and integrity and honesty has given me that spirit to go after this. And I mean, I never thought, and I said it. I said this. I'm through with politics about 4 years ago. I said I'm through. Anybody that would talk to me knew that I was through. Okay, but God knew that I wasn't through. you know, and with that, I was getting ready to throw away all my signs. I was getting ready to throw away literature. Holy Spirit would not let me do that. And then every time I would think about that, I would see a dam, and to my mother, the dams represent angels. And every time it was in my thought process, I would be walking or jogging at night or early morning, it was dark, and I would see a dam. And I couldn't believe that. I have so many dams that I have picked up at night. And that was, to me, that was saying that these angels are around you, they're watching you, you're getting the experience you need to do one hell of a job, working with our young people, not only with the citizens of one community, but all the citizens in Lake County.
For sure. So is it ever a time where you said, well, of course you said about 4 years ago you said you were done, but even as you decided to do it this time, was it ever an instance where you said, no, I'm good? Or was it, or let me ask this question, what made you want to do it now? And despite of what you said 4 years ago, is it that you think you can do a better job? Is it that you think you have the experience now to do things a little different? Or
I
what is
do.
it?
The leadership is there, the integrity is there, but some of the experience that I knew that I needed to have, and it wasn't necessarily, I commanded a brigade of military men and women, and I had responsibility for 1,750 soldiers, and guess what? Over 1,000 or close to 1,000 were deployed, and that was still my responsibility for them and their parents. So I look at that experience of working with people, and even the sheriff department, the correctional officers, the jail, all of these people need to have morale boosted. And my leadership skills, I don't scream and holler at people. It's a different type of leadership style because I love people, and if somebody's doing wrong and curse me out, fine, I can deal with that. But this time, I just said, no way. And then about maybe October, it just kept coming to me. You gonna run for sheriff?
Your time as police chief, can you talk about the positives and the negatives associated with that, and how those, both positives and negatives, have prepared you for doing the job you think you can do as sheriff?
As the police chief, there were a lot of people that they don't want a chief from the outside. They want one of their own. And trust me, you have a lot of qualified police officers that can be chiefs. And they work their way up and they become the chief. But so when you hire an outsider, it's different. The attitude is different. And it took about 2 or 3 weeks to have the attitude change, because just within a month, and we even had COVID during that time, but we had the community so involved. We had the Buffalo Soldiers bringing them lunch. I mean, they bring in the motorcycle, but they would have lunch for them. We had Miller Pizza. All 3 shifts, they would come and they would feed the soldiers. You had people, hot food, and they would actually come. So you had the community buying back the love for police officers. I tried to be on every shift, and someone tried, hey, come on, ride with us. Well, didn't have a problem riding with them, but the relationship built that they were building, and I really cared. I was at work every morning at 7 o'clock. Okay, and I'd go home about 5, or just to say hi to the wife and maybe eat something. I'd go back out, and I was never going out watching. I watched a few like at scenes how they react and how they reacting to the public and what are they doing. So that prepared me that they need the love. They need someone that the gap has been broken. And I'm not saying it wasn't before, but someone says they had never had the fourth floor to treat them like that. Well, all the commanders, the assistant, the deputy chief, and the chief on the fourth floor. In the military, you're taught about a chain of command, and that chain of command is never broken, going up or down, never broken. So that means that I cannot allow that private or patrolman to come up without getting permission from his leaders. But as a leader, I can go down and talk to him. How's it going? What you need? And I will never forget going to a shooting, and the officers were just standing around. And I said, okay, what? Why are you just standing around? Why aren't you roping off the crime scene? Well, we don't have any crime scene tape. I said, you're kidding me, right? He said, no, we don't. We have to wait on the sergeant. I said, you're kidding. So I went back to the station, talked to the person that I said, we will have 2 rolls of crime scene tape in every car. I mean, we will do that because it's not expensive. So I wouldn't have known that unless I'd been there to see it. Cars, you need cars. And right now, I ordered 100 cars. I didn't know when they were coming, but I left, but they're coming. You got cars now, brand new cars in the parking lot of the police department. And I'll be glad when they hurry up and get lights and sirens in them where each officer will have a car that he or she does not have to share. I mean, because most of the cars, and they're going to last longer because these one car would be for all 3 shifts. So somebody would come and take and drive it and smoke it and do whatever in it. And then, that officer would have to come and clean it out and spray it out and get his car. But now with every car, you're putting these cars on the street in your neighborhood where people can see these police cars. So a lot of things I learned personally, a wellness program. When you have police officers involved in any type of violence at all, they need help. And they don't need to call a 1-800 number and talk to somebody that's going to call them back the next day. Mm-hmm. They need help. So when you learn all of these things and you look at how that police officer really feels and what it's going to take to make that officer do a better job and care more, you got to care for them. And that's everybody. And you learn that in the military because they say no one left behind. And I keep bringing up military because 36 years I couldn't help but to show love and don't let anyone break a chain of command and be a leader. They're going to follow you. They're going to watch you. They're going to see what you're doing. And I mean, I can show you different texts from police officers when I left. Man, you did more in 6 months and blah, blah, blah. That made me feel good. It still makes me feel good. And that kind of motivated me to say, hey, we need to do this. We need to, when you're the county sheriff, what are you going to do, for these officers that there's an issue with, that they need more money, they need a better car. These are things that have really opened my eyes to do a better job in working with the younger officers and getting that morale where it needs to be.
For sure. So this will be my final question. Mm-hmm. I'm 22 years old. I'm from east side of 49th Avenue, okay. Let's say Kentucky Street.
Okay. Tough area.
Why should I vote for you, or why should I vote at all? Even.
Well,
why do I even care who the sheriff is? Y'all just go bother me anyway. So.
Well, the bottom line is, and I'm not saying in the past, but I'm from Gary, okay? And I'm not saying that I didn't try to be a wannabe gangbanger. I went to Frable, and there were fights and stuff. But the young people need hope. And if they don't have hope, what are they going to do? They're going to either use the drugs, rob somebody, not go, not leave. My job as sheriff is going to be to mentor everyone in every neighborhood. I think that some students from Gary should go to Lake Central go to school there for a week just to see each other and to blend each other, the different personalities, the different attitudes. One thing I found out for sure, and a lot of young people would say, we had a lot of young people that caused problems when we were in ROTC. Once we took them to camp, away from this area, Camp Atterbury, they were perfect. I mean, they had, I mean, it was just unbelievable. So you have to get them out in the environment. Now, what can we do in Gary? Things are changing. We are trying to reimagine what Gary was like, but I would say to you that you have to know that someone cares. Politicians, and am I a true politician? I don't know whether I am, but I'm not going to say anything that I can't do. I told you about mentoring. I'm going to mentor. You're going to see me on the street. You're going to see me walking the street. Not only of Gary, you're going to see me in Dyer. You're going to see me everywhere. And I'm going to walk the streets. I don't care about race. I don't care about religion. I'm going to walk the streets because I want to be that mentor where someone can say, wow, look at Ligon. You know, he's walking. Look at him talking. I can show you pictures of me in Crown Point, in Cedar Lake, everywhere. So Gary, from 49th, you look at it and you say, did anyone ever talk to you or try to help you to get into college or do something to change your life? If you have nowhere to go and nothing to do, you're going to remain that little wannabe gangbanger or gangbanger in this city. But if you live, I'm sure you're going to hear gunshots all the time. You know, I say, where's our shot spotter? We got to arrest these people that are shooting these guns because those bullets are coming down somewhere. And I tell you, just give me that opportunity. I'm going to be, I live here. Not that I would come to 49th all the time because I still have to worry about Crown Point and Hammond and East Chicago. But I guarantee you that if there's any way for me or any of the county officers or Gary officers or whatever city they're in to mentor our young people, we're gonna have one of the strongest mentoring programs there can be. Not only that, if you want to go to school, you know, the military helped me tremendously. So I'm gonna be pushing military out there too, because if you don't have an alternative and you want to go to college, I'm gonna try to get you in the college ROTC program where the tuition, books, everything is free. So a lot of people don't know that. So if you come to me and say, I need some help, and I'm gonna tell you, I can't respond to every call, but I'm gonna try. And when someone called me and say, I need for you to come talk to my son. He's a junior and he's acting up and he's not going to college, but he has good grades. I'm gonna try to be there. And I'm gonna have some trained officers with me because that Law in Your Community program is gonna really bring that interest to young people. So my job is, and my calling is young people. So when you tell me that you think it's hopeless, it's my job to change your mind. If I don't have you doing anything but helping coach Pop Warner football and seeing how these young people are, you'll see it. And I'm not saying that and gonna go up in the office and hide. That's not me. I'm gonna make sure everything's done financially correct. I'm gonna make sure all the officers are treating everybody correct and mentoring people. And we're gonna change this. We're gonna change that attitude. It may take a week. It may take a year. But whatever amount of time it takes for me and the entire, even the correctional officers that want to go out and do things, we're gonna make sure they're mentoring too. So we don't want you to feel hopeless. I know a lot of people right now feel hopeless. I teach a criminal justice class at the Career Center, and I try to make it as real as possible. But two of the students in the class have been mistreated by police. So we have to kind of change that mindset because there's no way they don't want to be a police, but they want to be lawyers. So whatever you want to be, we need to find out. And we need to help the teachers determine this. We need to help train the teachers how to deal with certain situations. So all I can do is guarantee you that you'll have my all. You know, it's definitely not about the prestige. It's not about the money. It's not about the uniform. I'm going to dedicate myself to young people throughout this county. And whenever you deal with a young person, you're going to deal with their parents. So whenever you're dealing with their parents, you're dealing with their relatives. So it's going to be a catching effect that we're going to definitely make a change. You'll see it. It's not like you're going to see me during election time and then all of a sudden you don't see me again. I don't return your calls. As chief, I returned every call, and it wasn't easy. But that's my job, is to return calls.
I'm gonna remember that too.
Remember, please do. But I've been knowing you a little while just from namesake, and you're going to have to help us. So when I say, hey, Jeremiah, I need for you to bring 12 guys up to the county jail. We just want to give them a tour, and we want them to talk to a couple of officers. You know, we want to take them over to the armory at the airport and watch, just show them these helicopters and show them why math is important. You know, so you're going to be involved in that. If we have to pay for that bus to take you over to the, that's what we're going to do.
No problem.
Okay. We're not going to give you a ride in the helicopter until you join the military.
I was hoping for the helicopter.
Well, you may get that. Jeremiah, you will get a ride in the helicopter. At least you'll be able to sit in it.
I'm going to remember that
Okay,
too.
remember that.
I'm going to remember that
That's
too.
right.
For sure.
That's not a political promise. That's a promise.
For sure. And I
All
appreciate it. For sure. I appreciate you taking the time to even come talk to me again. I extended this invitation to, or attempted to extend this invitation to every candidate in your race, and whether they confirm or not, you know, but I appreciate you doing it. So
no problem.
Any last words, any events coming up, any?
We have some events, but the key is being out in the community. And I've been told that I was standoffish, I was cocky, I was this, and I just need to show the people that that's not me. And if you and the people in Gary know that whenever they call me, whether it's for a military funeral, military ceremony, I'm there, and I'm going to continue to be there. I don't tell people no unless I just can't do it. But if you elect me as sheriff, I will show you, and you don't have to go all the way to Missouri to be shown. It will be right here. So I thank you for your support. I thank you for your vote. Pass it on to your relatives, and give me an opportunity to show you and not just talk about it. Thank you very much.
For sure. May 4th is election day.
May 3rd.
May 3rd. I'm sorry.
Don't wait till the 4th.
We'll change that. We're going to edit that. May 3rd. May 3rd. So, yeah.
And there's early voting. So go vote for Richard Ligon. He's the first one on the ballot. Vote early. Go vote early. And you have a couple of weeks to register people that are not voting. And if you find grandmothers or seniors that can't get out, we can help them get absentee ballots.
Yes, sir, for sure. Again, thanks again for everybody watching. BLACKchat, another installment of BLACKchat from the We Engage campaign. King out. Peace and love.